5 a.m. alarm. The Notion template you spent 90 minutes building on a Sunday, the color-coded time blocks, the deep work playlist queued before you've touched a single page. You didn't study that morning, but you felt like you did. That's the trap, not laziness. You're not lazy. You woke up early. You built the system. You followed the ritual, and somewhere between the alarm and the desk, the ritual became the point. The container became the product. And the actual work, the uncomfortable, unglamorous, stare at the hard thing work, never happened. Stephen Strange walked into Kamar Taj with better credentials than anyone in that courtyard. Neurosurgeon, eidetic memory, a system for everything. He knew how to learn. He'd been rewarded his entire life for knowing how to learn. And for the first several months, he did exactly what he'd always done. He optimized the approach instead of doing the work. The Ancient One didn't give him a better routine. She broke the one he had. Here is what Strange eventually understood, and what your color-coded Notion page is quietly preventing you from seeing. There's a version of discipline that looks exactly like discipline from the outside. It wakes up early. It has a journal. It has a water bottle with time markers on the side. It has a 5-step morning sequence it found in a video. Probably a video a lot like this one. And it sits down at the desk every morning feeling like a man who has his life together. Then it opens YouTube to find the right steady music. Strange's mistake at Kamar Taj wasn't arrogance. Or not only arrogance. It was that he'd spent his entire life in systems that rewarded preparation over penetration. Medical school rewards the man who can build the framework. The real work rewards the man who can sit inside uncertainty long enough to move through it. Your routine is a framework. Frameworks don't pass exams. Frameworks don't retain information at 2 in the afternoon when the material stops making sense and your brain wants out. The man who can push into that wall, no playlist, no ritual, just him and the page. That man is building something your Notion template will never touch. The routine was supposed to be the door. You've been living in the doorway. And what's behind the door? What actually happens when you stop optimizing and start working? Is what most students spend 4 years successfully avoiding. Here is what real studying looks like and why you won't find it in a morning routine video. It looks like opening the textbook to the chapter that doesn't make sense, not the chapter you are comfortable with, the hard one. The one you've skipped 3 times because you told yourself you'd come back to it when you had more energy. You sit down, you read the first paragraph. You don't understand it. You read it again. You still don't understand it. You want to check your phone. You don't. You read it a 3rd time. That's it. That's the session. 45 minutes on 2 pages you half understand. It's not cinematic. There's no lo-fi beats, no golden hour light through the window, no satisfying Pomodoro chime. It's uncomfortable and slow, and it feels like nothing is happening. And that feeling is exactly what learning feels like before it becomes knowledge. Stay with this. What I am about to say is the thing that separates the students who remember this content in 5 years from the ones who forget it before the exam is over. Strange didn't get his hands to work by finding a better technique. He got them to work by staying in the failure long enough that his body had no option but to adapt. The Ancient One didn't optimize his practice. She removed everything that let him avoid the hard part. Your morning routine is everything that lets you avoid the hard part. Strip it. Alarm. Water. Desk. Open the hard thing. That's the whole sequence. Everything else is performance, and the audience is only you. 6 months of this looks like nothing from the outside. No transformation photo, no productivity thread, no morning routine video to post. Just a man who sits down every day, does the uncomfortable work, and goes about his life. The people around him don't notice anything different. His desk isn't aesthetic. His journal isn't color-coded anymore because he stopped journaling when he realized he was spending more time writing about studying than studying. But something is happening underneath. He is becoming a man who does not need conditions to work. He doesn't need the right music, the right light, the right energy level, the right amount of sleep. He has trained himself to work in the absence of ideal, and that capacity, built slowly over months of unglamorous repetition, is rarer than almost any specific piece of knowledge he'll ever acquire. This is what Strange became, not a man with better spells, a man who could function in chaos, under pressure, without the tools he relied on, because he'd spent years learning without them. The students who graduate and immediately stall are almost always the ones who needed the conditions. The ones who move quietly, consistently, without an audience, are the ones who learned to work when everything felt wrong. You will not feel this compounding for a long time. That's not a warning. That's the design. The return is delayed precisely because most men quit before it arrives. And the routine was always hiding from you. The thing you suspected, but kept scheduling around, is coming in the next part. You've been thinking your routine needs to be better. Wrong. Your routine is already excellent. That's what it was designed to be. Excellent, optimized, satisfying to execute. You built something that feels like discipline so precisely that your nervous system can't tell the difference between doing the work and preparing to do the work. Flip that. The problem was never the routine. The problem is that you became someone who needs one. Tomorrow morning, before you open Notion, before you cue the playlist, before you do anything that feels like preparation, open the hardest material you have. No sequence, no warm-up, no easing in. Sit with the discomfort of starting cold. Not because cold starts are magic, because the man who can start cold, who doesn't need the ritual to access the work, has built something that no study technique, no productivity system, and no morning routine video will ever give him. That's the thing. Strange earned that nobody in Kamartaj saw from the outside. Not better spells, not a cleaner practice. The ability to begin, without conditions, in the dark, when nothing is aligned and nobody is watching. That is the only morning routine worth having. Not the one that looks like discipline. The one that is discipline. Quiet, ugly, and completely invisible to everyone, except the man sitting at the desk at 6 a.m., staring at the page that doesn't make sense yet, staying anyway. The routine was the training wheels. You already know how to balance. Take them off. What's the one thing in your current morning routine that you do for yourself versus the one thing you do to feel like yourself? Drop it in the comments. Be honest. Nobody's grading you except you. If this hit different than the usual morning routine content, you know where to find more. Subscribe. No fluff, no color coding required.